Would you believe that 3 different women asked me the same question this month? What's actually the best calcium for my bones? They weren't asking me whether to take it or not. Their doctors had already told them to take it, but they wanted to know if the bottle that they were told to take was actually doing anything at all. So I went and dug into the research, and what I found wasn't what I expected. Today I'm going to walk you through exactly what to look for, what to skip, and the one thing that matters more than the bottle itself, and a couple things that matter just as much as the supplement. Why does calcium matter for our bodies anyway? This question matters more as we age because bone density naturally declines with age, and the drop accelerates for women, especially after 30 and into peri and postmenopause. This happens because estrogen plays a very protective role in bone density. So as the estrogen declines, bone breakdown can start to outpace the bone rebuilding. So this isn't necessarily a someday problem because bone loss is silent for years before it shows up on a scan or in a fracture. And we all want to make sure that we prevent that from happening as we grow older. Most women aren't asking, should I take care of my bones? Because they already know it's something that we need to do. We're already trying. But the real reason is whether what they're doing is actually working or not. So I've seen people take the same calcium gummy for years because it was in the pharmacy and that's what their doctor told them. And they never questioned whether it did anything or not. But some of those drugstore vitamins actually don't help us. And I'm going to go into why here in a minute. There are many types of forms of calcium on the market. Not all forms are created the same or absorbed by the body the same. So calcium carbonate is what you're going to find most regularly. This is the cheapest, most common form of calcium that you're going to find in any supplement. The unfortunate part is this kind of calcium needs stomach acid to absorb it. It's best taken with food, and it needs that stomach acid to break it down. Unfortunately, as we talked about in a recent video, as we get older, our stomach acid declines. Well, that's not a good combination if we need more stomach acid to break down the calcium carbonate that we're taking because we're older, but as we're older, those enzymes are declining. So as we found before, this is a bad choice for anyone with low stomach acid. Another type is calcium citrate. Calcium citrate is more easily absorbed and doesn't require as much stomach acid to break down, and it's a lot gentler on digestion. This is usually the better choice for anyone over 40 or anyone with any kind of digestive issues. So again, calcium citrate is the form of calcium that's going to be more easily absorbed. Now, if you take too much of it, you're going to create some loose stools. So you want to be careful on making sure you get the right amount. You don't need to overdose first thing on that. There are other forms of calcium. You've got gluconate, lactate, and calcium from algae or coral sources. And they're not quite as relevant and they're less researched for most people. More isn't better as far as calcium goes. The body can only absorb a limited amount of calcium at a time. So anything over and above that you take, it will eliminate. So that's why some people who take a lot of calcium citrate find that it helps make digestion go a little easier. 1,000 milligram dose of calcium in one sitting is far less effective than 2 doses of 500 milligrams spread throughout the day. So the form on the label matters just as much as the amount, and dosing strategy matters more than people realize. So that's the first takeaway I want you to remember, is the form matters. However, calcium does not work alone. So vitamin D3 is needed with calcium. Whether it's in the same supplement or you're taking it at the same time, it's very important for calcium absorption. Without D3, calcium is not absorbed from the gut into the bloodstream at all. So D3 is the little delivery driver that gets calcium where it needs to go. So if you imagine the bloodstream, D3 is your little taxi driver driving that calcium to your cells so that it can get absorbed through the body. Another really important nutrient that you need to take with calcium is vitamin K2, specifically the MK7 form of K2, but K2 is super important. This K2 directs the calcium to the bones and the teeth instead of soft tissue like the arteries. This is often the most overlooked piece and why calcium without K2 can end up in the wrong places. So if you don't have K2, your calcium, instead of going to your bones and your teeth, go to your arteries. Calcified arteries cause cardiac challenges. We do not want that. We don't want hardened, calcified arteries. We want all that calcium going into our bones and teeth and not just hanging out in our bloodstream, not knowing where to go. Another really important piece is magnesium. So, in order to activate the vitamin D in the body, you need magnesium. This is the missing link for calcium absorption that most labels don't mention, and most women are already low in magnesium from stress and diet. So, magnesium is super, super important for calcium absorption. So, if you're taking calcium to help strengthen your bones, you want to make sure that you're taking a calcium, D3, K2, and magnesium either all in the same supplement or all at the same time. It's very important. And again, without K2, you get what research calls the calcium paradox. This means that you get insufficient deposits into the bone alongside an increased vascular calcification risk. So this is the reason why we don't just take calcium advice and it falls short. That's solving for blood levels. So when you take a blood test, the blood test isn't going to show whether that calcium level is getting to your bone or just hanging out in the, like getting transported through the blood. And so if it's getting transported and not absorbed, it can end up in those blood vessels. So this is not necessarily seen on a blood test, but it's very, very, very important to your absorption into your bones and teeth. Just because a bottle says calcium, if nothing else is on the label, it's doing a fraction of the job of what the goal is for that product. If you can't find a calcium that contains the other nutrients with it, make sure you supplement them in other ways. Since we're talking about bone health, I want to remind you that food and supplementation are not the only ways to strengthen your bone. Remember, I'm always talking about the roots. It's not always just a physical thing. We have other ways that we need to help strengthen our body. One of the biggest ways to help increase bone strength is weight-bearing exercise. Bone responds to mechanical stress by getting stronger. So walking, resistance training, carrying groceries, carrying kids, it all counts. Just make sure that you're getting some sort of pressure or stress against those bones to help keep them stronger. Now, if you do have time, it is better to actually do like specific weight-bearing exercise, but lugging around a car seat is quite a bit of work as well. So I count that. I do notice though, when I do extra focused exercise, that my body does get stronger and feel a lot better. Another really, 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 really big piece for women, especially, I mean for anyone, but protein. Protein is super important because bone is made up of collagen. Well, part of it is made up of a protein called collagen. And so adequate protein matters just as much as calcium itself. And most women undereat protein without even realizing it. You should be eating 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 120 pounds, you should be getting 100 to 120 grams of protein a day. That's a lot of protein. And most of us have no idea that we're not getting that amount. And I'm not saying be on a super restrictive diet, but I am saying prioritize protein in your meals to make sure that you're getting enough protein. Tying back to a conversation from last week, sunlight and vitamin D. Again, vitamin D, sunlight. You want to make sure that you're out in that sun, whether it's first thing in the morning, like we talked about last video, or if it's just anytime throughout the day. That sun exposure ties back to the vitamin D conversion and connects the nervous system, circadian rhythm that we talked about last week with the vitamin D and getting that calcium into the bones and teeth. Another thing that surprised me most, which shouldn't have because it's the underlying theme throughout everything I do right now, is you can have the right form of calcium, the right cofactors or extra supplements to make it go where it needs to go. You can have the right dose, and your body still might not use it well if it's stuck in stress mode. A nervous system running on high alert pulls the resources away from things like bone building, or even pulls them from the bones themselves because it thinks it's too busy surviving and it needs those minerals right now to be able to survive. So if you've been doing everything right and still not seeing results on a bone scan, this might be why. And it's worth knowing before you assume that the supplement itself is failing you or you assume that the supplement is all you need. I go into the stress connection a lot deeper in my previous video. I can link it again below if you want the full breakdown. So, what to actually look for? A simple checklist of what to look for when you're buying a calcium supplement or you're checking the one on your shelf to make sure that it's beneficial for you. First, check the form. Make sure it's citrate over carbonate. For most women, especially if you're over 40 or if you have any kind of digestive issues. You want to check for cofactors, including vitamin D3, either in the same supplement or in another supplement that you take at the same time. K2 needs to be included or covered elsewhere, and magnesium, also either included or somewhere else in the same routine. You want to split that through the day rather than one large dose. You want to take it morning and night, breakfast and dinner, twice a day. Also, you want to make sure that you're doing weight-bearing movement, exercise, getting strength and pressure against those bones. You want to get enough protein, sunlight, and focus on calming that nervous system. Again, we did a whole episode on a calm nervous system and the importance of that last week. I can link the video below to make sure that you have that if you want to see it. But you don't need the most expensive bottle. You just need the right combination, and the right combination is more than what's just in a little capsule. So, if you want to know whether stress or your gut might be the bigger root holding back your healing, bones included, take my free quiz. The link's in the description below. And if this kind of breakdown is helpful, make sure you subscribe. I'm digging into more of these supplements and root cause questions in upcoming videos. Can't wait to see you next week. Thanks.